I hope I'm not calling you out when I say this now. But basically, so he runs into the sim cafe, he takes off his backpack, he takes off his jacket, and he takes off his shoes. Which I thought is... Hi guys, and welcome back to the Daily Racing Show here at RacePlazaMedia. It is Media Friday, and as promised, we will be reviewing today the Gran Turismo movie. I watched the movie, you didn't watch the movie, so I'm gonna tell you guys and you all about it. There's gonna be little spoilers, but we'll let you know when there's spoilers, so if you want to skip over them, you'll definitely have the chance to do so. Gran Turismo movie came out last year, August 25th, so it's been around for a minute. It was first in movie theaters, but then during the winter of last year, it came available on Netflix. That's when I decided to watch it because I was really curious about it.
Okay.
I was on the fence about it at first when it came out because it seemed a little like Hallmarky movie.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I wasn't sure how it was going to be. The trailer, I honestly think the trailer doesn't do the film justice.
Okay, interesting.
I like the movie a lot. If you don't know me, I like sports films a lot.
Yeah, that's your thing.
Like a good football movie or like
Baseball,
any kind of sports movie I really enjoy, especially when they have that locker room speech and you have that
something a little bit more heartfelt,
Yeah,
and everything comes down to this one thing.
You have this inspirational, based on true story kind of vibe. That's definitely me. So this is that type of movie.
Okay.
And I really did enjoy it.
Okay.
So basically, if you don't know what it's about, it's inspired by the true life story of Jan Mardenborough. Basically, the story follows a young adult who has aspirations of being a race car driver. He's a sim driver, and he gets this opportunity to compete for the GT Academy by Nissan. He has to win like a online competition at first, and then he wins. He gets the fastest time or one of the fastest times in his region, and then he gets invited to train in actual race cars, and then whoever wins gets to actually compete as a real life race car driver, which is based on true life, which I think is so cool. So
okay, so that was the story of the movie.
That is the story of the movie and also the story of real life.
Okay, so it is one-to-one almost?
It's not.
I'm sure things are embellished,
yeah, so there's definitely some Hollywood things. For example, David Harborough is in it, the guy from Stranger Things. His character does not exist. He plays this like disgruntled who was a race car driver. He became an engineer and then like this very disgruntled kind of type. He's very like brash with the people. He's like, yeah, you'll never drive. And
is he a little bit of the antagonist or is it a different antagonist?
No, it's a different antagonist. I'll get to the antagonist.
Okay.
But his character is not based on reality. You need it in the movie just to have a little bit of like tension and stuff like that. I mean, he's like the counterpart to Jan's character, but so his is a little bit Hollywood ties. Then of course there's the racing scenes where the cars are right next to each other. The drivers look at each other and then they shift because they're not already at like high speed on the straight. You know, like that kind of thing of course happens too.
Yes, usually when racing you do look over to make sure that the other person knows
you
what
have
you're doing.
eye contact. And then you're of course if it's a long straight you're not completely under full throttle yet, so you still have to like
so I imagine you're in the car with your helmet on and then you're like,
yes,
so you can see me, right?
I mean, there's definitely those like Hollywood moments, but they personally didn't bother me too much.
Yeah.
I didn't know that David's character is not based on reality prior. When I was doing my research afterwards, I find out about it, so it was okay. So now speaking of the antagonist.
Okay.
The antagonist is actually inspired by an actual person.
Okay.
In the movie, it's a competitive or competing team of like an actual racing team. David's character was originally an engineer on that team, but now, so there's some beef because of that as well. And then the lead eventually competes against that team. And so they have a little bit of rivalry. The competing team, their driver is also young and upcoming, has a little bit of a temper issue, very emotional also. And so that person is inspired by an actual previous teammate of his.
Okay.
And that teammate, you also know, and you guys might also know, was a F1 driver.
Okay.
An F1 driver who left F1 within the last couple of years.
Okay.
You may guess.
Okay. Can I know the team that he was racing for? Is that too obvious?
I don't know if it will be too obvious.
Okay.
It will be Williams.
Williams.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so currently we have Alex Albon and Sargent racing for. Is it Latifi?
Yeah.
Oh my god! It's Latifi!
Yes. I mean, it's according to an interview that I read that the enemy or the competitor, the rival, is inspired by Latifi, Nicholas Latifi, who was a teammate of Jan's at one point, and they had a little bit of beef.
That is interesting.
Right? I was so shook when I read that. I was like, no way.
Because, like, I know that people were hating on Latifi quite a good amount when he was in F1, but the interviews that I had always seen of him, he seemed really chill. So, I mean, of course, people are different, you know, in front of the camera than they are behind. It's very surprising to me. Oh my goodness, I'm shocked.
Yeah.
I'm shook. Wow. Okay.
So yeah, so that's, I mean, so it's, the movie is a little bit different. Like I said, real life versus, but I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
they also have a romance arc in the movie, which I thought was completely unnecessarily. We really didn't need it. And also it turns out that storyline doesn't really exist. Like that was just for the movie. What I thought was really cool, he competes in this GT Academy by Nissan. 10 people who've won the sim racing competition get to drive actual Nissan race cars. They learn how to do it, and then the top driver graduates from the academy and then gets to actually compete in real-time racing.
That's actually really cool.
Which is really cool. Unfortunately, the program doesn't exist anymore.
That's a bummer.
Because the character who inspired Orlando Bloom's character in the movie, he's the one that kind of created the whole program. He eventually left. And then since then the program has been...
So he was like the driving force behind it?
I guess so.
Okay.
So yeah, so unfortunately it's not a thing anymore.
Okay, that's
but I think it's so cool because Jan won in 2011 the GT Academy. He was the youngest person to ever win it.
Wow.
And he was the third time the Academy happened. He's the one that won it.
Okay, so he was okay.
So it was not the first person to win it. However, the other people who've also competed before him, some of them became quite successful or recurring race drivers, which I think is really cool.
Does Jan still race?
Yeah, he still does race.
Do you know where?
He's competing in Japan, from what I've seen.
Okay.
What
is it open wheel
races? No, he's been doing, I think it's like LMP2 type or
okay, so a hypercar.
Yeah, I think so, if I'm not mistaken. So he's been in a bunch of different racing categories, but he's been racing ever since.
Oh, that's awesome.
I think it's really, really cool.
That's really cool.
That something like that actually...
It is really cool, especially if you think about that racing itself is already such an expensive hobby to have. And then that is maybe a way... I mean, not for a lot of people, but for some people to find their way into real life racing, going from sim racing, which is obviously much more affordable.
It's still not cheap if you have the right equipment and stuff.
But it's much more affordable compared to real life racing.
Yeah.
So it's really cool that he was able to do the transition. I think last year there was a Turkish driver, I think, who was really big in sim racing, who is now, I think, an official F3 or F2 racer. And he made that transition too. I know that he done some karting before, but still really awesome that this is something that is happening more and more, you know?
I think that's also really cool, especially it's another way for them to get into it. And also it just proves that sim racing, it's high quality racing. Like they get a really good feeling for the car and everything that goes with it. That's also speaking to Gran Turismo, the game itself, which they also talk about in the movie. There's a lot of like moments where you see the GT game and then it overlays with like the real racing and it goes back to the game. There's a lot of different ways where the game is also like honored or like there's like Easter eggs.
Or reference, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And there's also two things I want to point out about this. I mean, first of all, it looks really cool. I think they did a really nice way. For example, there was a moment where he's sitting at like a sim cafe, he's racing, and then suddenly like it transforms and he's in a car.
Okay, very cool. Like a cool transition.
Yeah, I think it's really nicely done. One thing that I read online, which I thought was really cool, apparently some of the cars that are featured in the movie, which to say sometimes the movie felt a little bit like a car ad, just like how the cars were placed and the film with the lighting and stuff.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I appreciate because I like the cars that they were like
Yeah,
featuring.
yeah.
But it definitely had a little like ad vibe to it at moments. But apparently, some of the cars, I can't tell for sure because I don't play the game, but some of them were Easter eggs for upcoming cars that will be featured in the game in the next one, which I thought was really,
Wait,
really
in the
cool.
next one or in the current one?
No, in the next one. So
The GT8?
yeah, they're working on it. So that those are feature like hints that it's gonna be potentially in the next game.
Okay.
Which I thought was really cool. And then, I mean, without spoiling anything, but of course he wins something at some point, and then the winning sequence in the movie mirrors this like winning sequences in the game also. And
So like this racing sequence?
no, not the sequence, but actually the celebration.
Oh,
Which is
okay,
really,
that's
really
very
cool. They even show like both and it kind of melds into each other very nicely, I thought. So I thought it was really cool how they incorporated the game into the movie. And they also gave a shout out to the Gran Turismo creator, the godfather of the game.
Yeah.
They also gave shout outs to how they created the actual game, like how meticulous the work is, how they scan the vehicles and the sound, and they actually take the vehicles to the racetracks to make sure that the feel and everything, like all the work that goes into it, it's really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you have to keep in mind it's a Sony game made in a Sony movie, so it makes sense that they obviously portray this favorably. But it is also very cool that I am not saying necessarily Gran Turismo, but I know especially iRacing. I've heard of like professional drivers saying, yeah, this is as close as it gets to actually driving a car, because I know GT7 is more of a simcade than an actual sim racer. It's kind of like in between, but they say in iRacing especially, it is almost as close as you get without, I guess, having the G-force. So it's really cool. I mean, also that they pay homage to like Gran Turismo, no matter how you feel about it.
Yes.
I've played quite a bit of it and I enjoyed it thoroughly. GT7 is the first one I've played, so I know that some people are upset with the newer one.
Yeah.
They like the old ones better, but I don't have a point of reference, so I really enjoy it. So
Yeah.
it's really cool that game made a movie.
Yes.
And I think also video game movies tend to be pretty bad.
Yeah, they're not always great.
A lot of them
But-
are more miss than hit.
Yes.
But it is cool that it seems like they made a good movie.
I think so, yes. And there's a couple more things I want to talk about. Speaking of the game, I also thought, which was, because I was trying to get a sense of how real it is, especially him being a sim racer originally, because there's this moment, which I thought very much about you when I saw the moment.
Yelling at the TV. How dare you!
No, so he has this big dim race where he has to compete to qualify potentially for the academy. No, you don't know what this guy
Okay.
And then so he has to, like, there's family drama, of course, and he has to go work with his dad, and he's like, no, I gotta go. And then he rides his bicycle across town. He has to get to the sim cafe as fast as he can to make it in time for the race, because he has to log in at a certain time to be able to participate. But the cool thing, which I was thinking about you, and I hope I'm not calling you out when I say this now, but basically, so he runs into the sim cafe, he takes off his backpack, he takes off his jacket, and he takes off his shoes.
Ah!
Which I thought is, which I mean, it's because you have specific shoes that you wear for racing. And from what I've seen online, a lot of people do, because it does make a difference. Are you going to show your shoes?
They make me faster. They don't. They don't, but I wear these specifically.
Yeah. So I thought that was just like a cool moment that I
This
thought
is
was very...
vindication for me, because in our friends group, I've been made fun of a lot for wearing shoes while racing. One of my main reasons also like grip too, because wearing socks, but also like it's metal pedals.
yeah.
So your feet, if you race for a while, they get cold. So there is a reason why I bought them, right? But vindication.
I thought it was just such a cool like moment that happened.
Yeah.
So it was just like, oh, okay, I guess.
There's a reason why I've always heard. No.
Now, moving forward, I have two moments that I want to talk about in the film that is going to be a spoiler.
Okay.
So if you guys want to watch the movie, which I highly recommend, and if you don't like spoilers, just skip a little bit further along in the clip. I'll put a big spoiler thing right here so you'll know when you can join back in. But this is a big moment of the movie, which I don't want to spoil for you if you don't want it to be spoiled. So now, Spoiler. So, of course, we know he makes it into real life racing. He competes at a bunch of different races. Of course, it's condensed timeline wise versus what's actually happening. It's cool that they feature different like famous tracks. I think they feature Spielberg, Silverstone, and a couple different tracks in the movie as well, which I think is cool. And then the big one is Nürburgring.
My enemy. It's a difficult track.
It is a very difficult track. And then,
so is it Nordschleife?
Yes, including the Nordschleife. And then so if you don't know, but there's this famous spot at the Nürburgring, which is called Flugplatz. I mean, you know what it means. I don't know if you've heard of it also, but basically it's a spot of the track. Vehicles get a lot of air going over that. So there's like a hump in the track where a lot of vehicles tend to get a lot of air. So in the movie, it's towards the end of the race. The vehicle is very light.
Is it a long straight?
I think so. It's a long straight that goes into the Flugplatz, and then there's a corner.
Oh, okay, so I know where that's,
So further along in the race, he's doing really, really well. The car is light on gas because it's almost over. He gets to the Flugplatz spot of the race. Then because the vehicle is so light, it takes air and then it flips and it goes into the barrier. And in the movie, kills an audience member.
Wait, the protagonist?
Yes. So he has this big awful crash.
So he's a murderer? So this is a murder mystery film now?
You're joking, but this actually happened to Jan in real life.
Okay, now I feel incredibly terrible. I feel like, oh my God.
Yeah, so I looked it up afterwards because I was like, no way this happened. And it did happen.
Okay, this feels like Ferrari 2.0.
It's,
oh my God.
It's really, really sad. It just really happened in real life. I mean, it was no fault of his. Like he was driving the car took air and it went into the, what do you call it?
Barrier.
The barrier, and there was people standing there, and one of the audience members passed away due to it. He obviously was injured as well, and so this is a big climax moment, of course, in the movie. But when I read that this actually happened to him in real life,
goosebumps.
I was like, yeah.
Okay, first of all, I feel terrible for making a joke that this is a murder mystery. Because when you said, I think you said something about like, oh, this is in the movie.
Yes, I know, I did it on purpose.
I was like, oh, okay, so they put this in for dramatic. But I think in real life, one of my biggest fears is ever to hit a pedestrian or like anyone, right? But then to have this happen and then someone dies, it's like, of course, he's not at fault, but you can't tell me that there's not some guilt that you're feeling, right? Wow, that's absolutely terrible.
Yeah, so it's a big moment in the film. And then in the film, of course, there's this moment where he's like, oh, should I continue or not? Apparently in real life, he knew that he was going to continue racing. But of course, it's a big thing. So that was one of the moments. The other moment, which
I did not expect a death in a movie like that.
Yeah, no, not at all. Same. Then one other thing I want to point out that happened in real life, which is a little spoiler, so it's in the spoiler section of this video, but it's something positive.
Okay.
So after he won the academy, he participated in a lot of different types of racing, open wheel, not open wheel, different type of classes, and he also participated at Le Mans, and he got third place in the first year that he competed, which I think is amazing.
That is amazing.
Right? I mean, Le Mans is just such an incredible competition. Place third is, I think, absolutely
That's a
incredible.
Huge feat. Yeah, that's huge. That's awesome.
I know it's not the big win after the downer that I just told you.
Yeah,
but I mean,
but still, Le Mans, I think, in general, first of all, making it to the end is already, and then to be competitive and then hit the podium, that's a big feat.
All right, so spoilers are done.
Okay.
Overall, I would say my Fazit, I don't know if that's an English word,
summary?
My summary of the film, I really enjoyed it. I would totally watch it again tonight. If I had Netflix, I don't have it at the moment. But if I did, I would totally watch it. I really enjoyed it. I think it has some funny moments in it. I enjoyed the racing in it. Yes, there's some Hollywood moments in it. But it had a good mix of like suspense and excitement. And it is my type of movie, 100%.
Okay, so I have a few follow-up questions.
Yes.
The actor who plays Jan, right? Does he race himself or he's just an actor?
He's just an actor.
But Jan did some racing in the movie, right?
So he's his own stunt driver.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
In the movie, which is cool that he got to participate. Archie Madekwe, who plays Jan in the movie. He's not a racer, he's an actor. You've probably seen him now, and he was in Saltburn, he was in Midsummer. So
he's doing well.
He's been around. Cool. I think he did a good job.
Do you know how long the movie is?
Ooh, I think it's under 2 hours. But
under 2 hours. Okay, so it's not too long. Okay.
Yeah, I felt like a good amount.
So is there a lot of like real racing happening or is it a lot of like CGI? Did it seem to you like, oh, this looks like it's real, or does it seem like, oh, it's a lot of green screen, a lot of CGI?
I think there's a good amount of real racing in it. I would imagine just because Jan is in it driving himself.
Okay.
It didn't feel too
So it's not like
screeny.
CGI galore.
No.
That's what I was worried about.
I don't think so. I mean, there's definitely CGI moments in it, especially since they merge the game with reality, but it didn't bother me. Like it was done, I feel like, in a nice way that it didn't like pull me out of it. And I enjoyed the racing that happens in it. I've read some feedback online, and a lot of people really enjoyed the racing, that it seems one of the better racing films out there for the actual quality of racing. Like, as I said, you have those moments where the drivers are looking at each other.
It seems like almost anime like, that you have like these like shots where they're looking at each other, you know? So now that you've watched the movie, feel like you would wanna sim race at least yourself?
I would like to try it.
Okay.
Yes, done a couple laps on your thing.
So she's done some oval racing. If you've played GT7, there is one of the like trophies or missions that you can do is that you have to do an oval race, and you essentially stay in fourth gear, and it's all about throttle control. And you've done that one.
I've done that, and I've done the music one.
Oh yeah, the music challenge in the beginning. I think with the Alpine. No, you did it in Tokyo.
I did Tokyo one. Yeah.
Right?
So I've done like a tiny little bit.
Oh, with room.
But yeah, I would want to try it again. I would like to go also to like this sim cafe or something.
There's one not too far from here.
Yeah, where they have like the actual like big equipment, not wanting to, because I gave you all or some of your equipment, like just to have more like
the like actual real setup, because I have a Logitech G29 and it's a perfect, I would say, starter and beginner because it is not too outrageously expensive.
Yeah.
You know, it's a great way to get into sim racing, also to just try it out to see if you'd like it.
Yeah.
So, but I agree, I would love to go to an actual location where they have like the super expensive setup and the like 3 displays around you and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would like to try. I don't think I would be any good at it.
Yeah, but I mean,
but I mean, I definitely would be curious to try it for sure.
Okay, that's awesome. That's good. So you would definitely give a recommendation, like if you have Netflix, check out the movie.
Oh, definitely, 100%. I mean, granted, it is very much up my alley, my type of movie. It's like a feel-good movie. Like, yes, there's some things that happen in it, but overall, I think it's a very enjoyable movie. I definitely recommend it. I think you would enjoy it too.
I think so too, especially because it's not too long, and the story, even though like I know what happens now, I think I would still watch it.
Yes,
eventually.
I mean, the cars are really nice, and like, as I said, like the merging of game and movie is really cool. So yes, I would recommend watching it. You guys watch it, you watch it. If you've already watched it, let us know in a comment below. Do you agree with my opinion, or do you have other thoughts about the movie? If you have another racing movie that you really love that you want us to review, or something that you're thinking about watching but you want us to look at it first, also let us know in the comments below. I'll gladly take a look at it. In 2 weeks, we'll do another review. I'm not going to tell you guys yet what we're going to watch, so stay tuned. In 2 weeks, we're going to have our next Media Friday review.
Correct. And that would wrap it up. Do you have anything else to say?
That's all I have to say. Thank you guys for tuning in. Remember to like and subscribe. And as per usual, we shall see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.